Hello, Clinical Research Circle. Welcome to another episode. We've got Greg Johnson. He's currently has a pretty big role with Kintara Therapeutics, symbol KTRA. What's your official title with Kintara, Greg?
Technically, I'm a consultant supporting them, but I've been working with Kintara for about 3.5 years now, and I function as the acting head of operations.
There's this very important trial that Greg's involved with. He was a big champion for it called the Agile trial for the glioblastoma study that Kintara is doing and that we've covered before. I think it's kind of a paradigm shift and maybe a sneak peek into the future of our industry, how that study, and then I want to get Greg's input on that as well. You're currently providing consulting support to Kintara Therapeutics. You were the champion, the leading champion for the Agile study. Can you talk to us about number one, how you discovered this as a potential strategy? If you discovered it, I'm not sure. And number two, how difficult was it to get in? Because it's not like they accept anybody. You had to be invited to this program. So can you talk about those two things, and then we'll talk about the efficiencies that brings?
Sure. So the company has Kintara has two lead molecules, Val-83 and REM-001. Val-83 is a drug that we're developing in glioblastoma, so GBM, and the registrational study for that is being conducted through the GCAR GBM Agile study. And we think this is the preeminent path forward for developing this drug. But we also think it's actually just a foundational study. It's a really great study that has the ability to, I think, change the industry a little bit. It's really an example of how clinical research can be done. And we were fortunate to be invited into this. Our CEO, Saeed Zarabian, had put together a scientific advisory board, or had revamped the scientific advisory board at Kintara when he came aboard. And a couple of the people he brought into that, which included John DeGroot, he's at MD Anderson Cancer Center, and he was the interim head of oncology at that time, and Tim Cloesy. Are both of these scientific advisors to Kintara are actually involved in the GCAR GBM Agile study. Tim Cloesy is the principal investigator for the overall study, and John DeGroot's now the principal investigator for our treatment arm in the study. So we were able to hear about it and get connected to the right people through our scientific advisory board. And then we had a number of conversations with them, both in terms of, was Val-83 a good fit for their study, and did it make sense for Kintara to move forward with a platform study like this where someone else is functioning as a study sponsor. So there's things to consider with that dynamic, of course. But the more we looked at it, the more sold we became on this approach. Just the elegance of the study design, the opportunity for a small biotech company to kind of play on a level playing field with people like Bayer, who were one of the other treatment arms in the study. It just seemed like a really good fit for our situation. So we're thrilled to have the opportunity to be a part of that study.
Yeah, I mean, the more you think about this is kind of sort of like a paradigm shift. We didn't see this 10 years ago, right? Or even 5 years ago. I mean, I'm sure it was done before, but it seems to be more of a common theme now where there's these consortiums that are kind of managing studies. Do you feel like this is actually potentially the future?
Yeah, I think it has that potential because I think it's a really good way to do this for a number of reasons. It's patient centric. I mean, it's really focused on the patients and trying to bring a new treatment to the patients in the fastest, most elegant way possible. GCAR, who function as the sponsor for GBM Agile, are a nonprofit. They frankly they don't care which treatment arm wins or which treatment arms make it to registration, as long as the best treatment gets to the patients as fast as possible, which is the right way to do clinical research. And because of the way the study is designed, I think it's really beneficial for patients. Patients enroll in a clinical trial in a indication such as GBM with hope that they're going to get access to an experimental therapy. They are typically dissatisfied with what standard of care has to offer, and they're hoping to have an opportunity to try something different, as well as to contribute to moving science forward for future patients. I think there's a philanthropic aspect to a lot of people participating in clinical studies. But because of the way the GCAR study is designed with three treatment arms and a common control group, one of the things that falls out of that platform study design is that for the patient subtypes that are in multiple treatment arms, a patient is randomized with an 80% probability of getting one of the experimental treatments and a 20% probability of going to the control group. In a typical clinical trial, you may have a 50-50 chance of going to standard of care, or maybe a 2-to-1 chance, depending on how the study is designed. Here, you've got a much greater chance for the patients to actually receive an experimental therapy, which I think is an important aspect of the study. It's good for us too, because I think it encourages recruitment and allows the study to progress more rapidly. It's good for the science because it's moving forward with 3 different treatment arms at once, and it's good for the patients because they have greater opportunity of kind of getting what they wanted out of the study.
And it's good on the wallet too for a small cap biotech, right?
Oh yeah, there's a number of aspects. I mean, right off the bat, the shared control group is a really nice setup. Any company participating really is only footing the bill for their share of the control group while having access to all of the patients in the control group. And it's actually even cooler than that in the design, because we joined this study after it had been running for a significant period of time, but we're able to take advantage of patients in the control group who enrolled from the beginning of the study on. So we're not even limited to just concurrently enrolled patients in the control group. And having a larger control group, besides cost savings, also helps with the statistical power. I mean, we benefit from that. There'll be less variability in those elements of the analysis, and that increases the likelihood of success if your treatment is actually effective.
Yeah, I did want to highlight that, because I think that, as social investors myself, Monica, Chris, it's kind of our job this is not financial advice, by the way, for anyone watching. It's our job to show you guys the biotech's cool things that we think are happening, such as the Agile study. I mean, it's kind of a paradigm shift, but I think the average investor in this sector does not realize all the moving parts that go into a clinical trial. And if you're sponsoring it on your own, things can get really expensive, and then you can't afford any misses on data, enrollment, any type of milestone is going to potentially kill the company. So in the case of a Kintara, you guys have set it up to where there's way less pressure on you guys for short-term results, and you could take a longer-term approach. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that being in a platform study like this really de-risks things for Kintara in a number of ways. We have access to, because this is really a prestige trial and it has the 3 treatment arms, and the GCAR is backed by really all of the experts in the space. We have best of breed vendors. For example, the CRO running the study on behalf of GCAR is IQVIA. Covance is the central lab. Metadata is the data management provider. Don Berry and Associates are the statistical support. Like, these are all experts in their field.
Yeah.
And small companies can have access to those folks, but it's challenging if you're the world's, one of the world's largest CROs, and you're dealing with a 5-person biotech company. They'll certainly say they're going to pay you the same attention that they are a big pharma company, but there are economic realities to how they run their business. On the other hand, when you're part of a platform trial that has 3 different sponsors involved, backing from experts in the field all the way through to the FDA, I feel like we get probably excellent attention from all the folks who are working on this study, and that de-risks it for us too. So I think there's a lot of ways in which this really is an ideal situation for a small biotech company to be participating in a study like this.
Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, my favorite part of this setup is it truly does benefit the patients. Even before any of these products may or may not be commercialized, you have, like you said, 80% opportunity to receive an investigational product as opposed to a control group, whereas in a regular study, maybe 50-50 for the most part. We're early in the study, right? Like, you guys, Kintara just joined in January. It's now May. So it's fairly early in the study. We can't necessarily ask for like patient stories or anything like that. But do you guys think you have something like that planned for the future? Maybe featuring like a patient journey in the study, or is that something you have to talk to CGAR about?
GCAR certainly will.
GCAR.
GCAR certainly plays a role in how these things are discussed, but we do work with them to really publicize the study, because it's a great, it's not just about enrolling people in this study, but I also hope we're we're helping to popularize the idea of a platform study. GCAR is doing something similar in the COVID space. They have plans to do it in some neurodegenerative diseases, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that can be replicated and in my opinion, should be replicated. So we'll do everything we can to help publicize that. And of course, we want Kintara's participation in this to be well understood and appropriately received too, because I think it puts us in an enviable position.
Well, that's our job then as social investors to keep an eye on this. One last benefit, I almost forgot. See, I did forget something. The FDA, Kintara had talks with the FDA. The FDA prefers this kind of a model, right? Like the Agile study. Is that
the design of this study was vetted in some detail with the FDA, and there's a level of stated support for the design and how it goes forward. And you can see on the GCAR website or the Kintara slide deck, for example, a quote from Janet Woodcock about platform trials and that this is the future of clinical trials to it.
Wow.
So I think it's a pretty strong endorsement from the regulatory authorities. Yeah.
That's a big statement. For those watching till the end, there you go. You get a golden nugget. You investors that are doing your due diligence, you stayed till the end. Good for you guys. Not financial advice. I'm not even sure if we own any Kintara, honestly. Chris and I have a few companies
I do.
Monica
I
does,
do.
okay. But doesn't mean we won't, okay? So just do your own due diligence, guys. Invest for the long haul. We try to cover the companies that are worth looking at long term. We're not traders. We don't look for catalysts and things like that. We're long term. So thank you, Greg, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And Monica and Chris for joining. And we definitely have to do a part 2 at some point as well as we get more. I guess as the study matures and evolves, we can get an update from you on enrollment or all kinds of other things.
Great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Greg. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone,
Thank
for
you.
watching and
Thank
listening,
you.
and catch you all later. Bye-bye.